unborn struggles to maintain a self.
8th century original authorship.
This is the heart and mind of all the Buddhas and all the awakened ones.
My initial reaction was to get kind of crazy with it.
Your body is a vivid form of emptiness.
The ideas are very abstract, and I like to work with abstractions.
The thing about it that was so striking from the get-go is this text, which is to be ritually recited to someone who's dying.
You will feel trapped and powerless.
Is a series of instructions to visualize some very kind of psychedelic transformations.
We age, sicken,
Different material states of your body, breaking up into abstract patterns of light and then reconstituting in another form at another level of reality. Morphing, imagery like that, those kinds of things are the stock in trade of digital media makers. And so it's like, oh, we can do that.
The thing for me is how to get some of that stuff that's in my head from reading this text into something that's animated and that's moving, and getting it so it lives up to this tradition. So for the software environment we were using, it was really
A workout.
This was modeled in a traditional workflow with Maya, so statues and artifacts of the tradition were used to kind of accurately represent in 3D the shape of Buddha Vairocana and his consort and retinue. Maya imported some of the imagery and kind of extruded and created the shapes according to the text.
And what that text is about is you are dying. And now if things go really, really well, you will achieve enlightenment. If in extremis you fail to reach enlightenment, then you move into the bardo, which means intermediary state of reality, which is where you have these very psychedelic visions of peaceful and wrathful deities, and then you get another shot at it.
I wake alone, groundless and without refuge. I do not know who or what or where I am. Everything is throbbing with the deep pulses of life, freed from the alteration of life and death. The great primal impulses of ignorance, aggression, greed, passion, and envy display themselves without reference to a body or a self. So these are the sorts of kind of imagery that we get with the peaceful deities. Calm.
Majestic, absolute serenity and awareness. I mean, one of the things to understand about this is that they're making love while this is happening, so to speak. That's part of that state of consciousness. And so the business of how her hands hover over his back, of how the sort of implicit psychological relationship between the two figures, which are, in the first instance, read as, sculpture, but there's something going on there. And so when we come up in between and under them on the red, that's a very different feeling than how they turn and relate and touch and don't touch and look at each other and look past each other and through each other as the thing unfolds.
And one of the other technically limiting factors is that Jitter is not a game engine in the sense that there's a lot of things that we weren't able to do with the amount of time that we had, things like animation. So we had to be very conscious of treating the scene as cinema and not as we can go in and animate these characters. Some of the other scenes, when you see the wrathful deities, we had to use a lot of tricks and techniques to convey a different sort of feeling with similar models. So how do you get a feeling of fear, these licking flames and thundering clouds and boiling blood and all these really fun imagery? This is actually a modification of one of the patches we used for the Tiglis sequence, where you kind of see the true essence of reality. So this is an audio reactive version of some of the patches and the materials that we used.
What's easy and what's hard is not what you'd expect, because you think, okay, cocking an eyebrow or a smirk in a character is really easy. Well, for us that wasn't available, but the idea of high-definition video of explosions in black space playing across the skin of the god of death, that was easy. So we did it.
This is an example of some of the feedback systems that we're doing, animating a still character, doing moves across, and the feedback and the blurring is kind of done in real time. That's not pre-rendered. So there's a lot of jitter video VJ tricks that were really effective in kind of conveying some of these things.
The eyes are another little loop of this sort of strange blue ring of plasma effect.
Oh, there it was.
That happened to be just exactly. See, those are the eyes of Yama. There's this whole kind of bohemian sub-industry online of, sites that will sell you stock clips, loops and things for special effects. For instance, the eyes, there's this little loop, right there, that was done as a demonstration of a special effect in video, and it had a black background on it, and I looked at it for a second and I thought, those are the eyes of Yama. And so the business of, downloading it, adjusting the format, and then bringing it in, that was stuff we could do.
We don't have to go back to kind of these slower, more traditional tools. I can just throw it on the model, and then we get to see it, and we can play with it, we can change it. It becomes really exploring and playing with the assets we have to create something rather than going back, re-rendering, waiting, playing it down.
If you look at the traditional paintings, they're reasonably conventional eyeballs, and there are 3 of them, but they talk about this sort of terrifyingness.
You're seeing the Lord of the True Law as it's told, so you gotta make him scary as shit, otherwise you're not doing your job, right?
A couple of people got the willies real good.
All thoughts of anger, rejection, and distance end.
Then, light of a red, blazing sun rises up.
To live up to the fact that this text is not only sacred, but very highly developed in ways that we're only just starting to understand, that's good and scary.
Then the red and white lights merge.
What was most terrifying wasn't the technology. It was, okay, we know how to make all this stuff go and do really cool things, but we're now sorcerers' apprentices messing with a tradition that is very elaborate, very mature, very refined, that's made for real grown-ups.